Since I only did 2 riding days for the rest of Ireland, I'm going to condense it into a single video. I finished the Wild Atlantic Way on the 29th, then stayed in Cork for 2 days to rest and recover a little. Which is when the lingering cold or COVID finally caught up with me. But to flash back for a moment, I took this voice memo soon after dropping my bike on the 28th, and now it's not a spoiler, I can fit it in here.
Today was a good day, except for the bit where I dropped my bike. But it's minor scraping, it is what it is, it's part of the journey, it's part of the experience, so I'm not gonna beat myself up over it. It's inevitable eventually that something will happen.
Then, when I was finally unloading my bike for the day, I had another encounter.
The world's best conversation starter has struck again. Guy just came up, chatted bikes for a few minutes and headed on his way. Said to basically avoid inner city Dublin because it's not that great and that's where all the bike thieves are, which is kind of what I suspected and kind of what I was planning on doing anyway.
I had this thought a few times and I'm not even exaggerating, there are very few conversation starters better than a bike fully loaded for a journey. Especially for the demographic of men over 40. A lot of these conversations had a similar theme too.
Got a lot of comments about how my bike looks new, which I think is actually quite nice. It means that I've done a good job taking care of it. And I guess compared to some, like 5 years isn't a huge amount for a bike. I suppose even a 5-year-old car doesn't look that old.
So, back to the journey at hand. I recorded a voice memo before leaving most mornings, but there was something special about this one.
There were only 3 of us in room for 10 last night, which is quite nice. So it's just my luck that the other 2 both kind of snored. But Lee, one of the guys from California, but he recommended that I go from Mount Gabriel straight to school. Yeah, he said it's a very nice, very quiet pass, which I'm hoping will be fun. We'll just see how things are going. What is this? I just found a 3rd zip in my saddlebags. Do they really have more space? Oh, they have side pouches. No way. That's very cool. Wish I'd known about that earlier, to be honest.
You have no idea how excited I was to have found a new pocket in my saddlebags. Unfortunately, things went a little bit downhill from there. I got tossed around on the small country roads that I showed in the last clip before dropping my bike again. I'd only dropped it once in the previous 5 years, and here I dropped it twice in less than 24 hours.
It happened again. Tried to get into a parking lot, and there's a kind of a ridge here, so I fell over onto the other side this time. The bag has at least cushioned the impact. You can't make this up. Just as I got my bike up, I'm checking the damage. 2 bikes rolled by. It would have been nice to have them to help a minute ago. This one at least was caused by me stopping. I was trying to turn and the one wheel track is much higher than the other, or there's a dip right next to where my left foot would have gone. The bike seems okay. Just need to make sure that it still starts. We're gonna skip quite a few things, especially these back roads. These back roads are awful. Ireland has not been a good country for me.
I'd heard that there were great views from the top of Mount Gabriel, but I didn't realise there was also a weather station up there. Since you can't really wander around, I only stopped off for a couple of minutes. Once I made it to Cork and had dropped my things off at the hostel, my first order of business was finding something to eat.
Apparently the Marina Market is the place to be. It's a long walk across the pier though, and it all feels very industrial and a little bit sketchy. Especially in sandals. Quite a few broken bottles. We'll see how it is inside.
So, the verdict? I liked the Marina Market. I thought it was pretty good, and I actually tried my first oyster there. I'll stitch in that video just after this one.
Alright, I've never tried oysters before, just got one. It looks very nice. But I've heard it's one of those polarizing foods, so I thought it'd be funny to live record my reaction. Alright, here we go. Don't love it, don't hate it. Probably wouldn't do again. Trying new things, eh?
While I was having dinner, I was thinking about what else I wanted to do that night, and I had this thought.
Making friends is hard, eh? That, I think, is the big downside of traveling alone, is that you don't already have an established group to do things with, although the freedom is nice and not having to rely on the whims of other people. 3 months is a long time to be hanging out on my own, to be honest. I'm sure I'll get tired of myself eventually.
So the question remains, what exactly did I get up to the rest of the time in Cork? My first rest day was not very restful.
I'm going to be doing a lot of walking today, I think. After Blarney, I'm going to go try and find another screen protector. Once that's done, we'll see about getting my chain tightened, because it's probably a little bit too loose at this point, and I'm not confident in my ability to adjust it myself.
For context, I went through 3 screen protectors in the course of about a week. It was a rough time, but I started with Blarney Castle.
Me being, well, me, I saw the sign for the castle. They had a signpost that immediately next to it said caves. So of course I decided to go up and wander around those first. Very quiet and very dank and very spooky. I quite like it. There are no like stay on the path signs, so I believe you're okay to explore. Don't want to get stuck, of course, that's the main thing. Not getting in trouble is a nice secondary objective. The sign said caves, plural. The map says cave, singular, so I think they may only have the one. It looks like whatever route there was to the castle has either collapsed over time or they've sealed off. It's a nice castle. Went through the castle, and it was interesting to see the difference. Bamborough is very much lived in still, whereas this is just not quite ruined, but definitely preserved and empty, as opposed to being continuously inhabited, so that was a very interesting change to see. Feels more historic. I kind of prefer the style, though, to be honest.
Blarney Castle did have one final surprise for me.
I think of all the things I expected to find in Ireland, a bamboo grove is probably among the least likely, but here we are. There are palms, there are all sorts of tropical plants. I guess it's wet and it never gets cold, so it makes sense.
I just kind of collapsed after I got back from Blarney Castle, but the next day I made a new friend.
I was waiting to get a smoothie at a place in the English market today, and a guy came up with a very tiny husky, and it turns out it's a Pomsky. His name was Bear. He was very friendly. He was very nippy. Storm bites a lot, and like he'll gnaw at your wrist and your hand, but at least his teeth are big, so they're not quite as sharp. I like huskies.
I left Cork on the 1st of August, and I had another moment that afternoon.
I told myself today was going to be an easy day. I told myself I'd not push it. I'm nearly at Dublin, which was like already the plan, kind of. I need to figure out where I'm staying tonight. The motorway was exhausting though, so I got to a point, and I just realized I needed to lay down. So here I am, lying down. I'm just a little bit sick and a little bit tired and a little bit everything, and I just realized that with my headset set up, it may be reading everything from the mic all the way over there, so...
Fortunately, those concerns were unfounded, and I found a really nice place to stay that night, close enough to Dublin that I had no rush reaching the ferry. The only other thing I kinda wanted to talk about was my experience at the hostel in Cork. The whole vibe felt slightly off. Just listen to these notes.
It is the morning of the 30th. So far, the hostel hasn't been terrible, except that the guy right in front of the door, terrible body odor. So you walk in and you are just punched in the face with the stench of taint sweat. So we don't love that.
And then the morning of the 1st, this happened to me.
So it is about 4:15 in the morning. I'm just having a snack now. Figure it's, have a snack, have some meds, see if I can't get back to sleep. Hello. I got cut off mid-sentence by a worker saying I can't stay in the dining room, which is a pain. I have to go in front of reception. The whole thing about having to sit in front of reception feels incredibly off. Like they have the whole place completely covered in cameras, and yet they don't want you using the common areas. Like, yeah, not having access to the kitchen itself, like locking that up so you don't burn the place down, that's fine. it doesn't feel very welcoming, is what I'll say. Whereas like Inverness, I feel nailed it. Whereas like, yeah, that's just this open area that if you want, you can use at whatever hour. They don't necessarily recommend it, but I don't think they'd actually stop you.
It was only after this incident that I heard about the burrito test. I unfortunately can't recall the source, but it goes something like this. If you can't get up to microwave a burrito at 3 AM, you're in an institution. The concept is more prevalent in discussions of group homes and psychiatric care, but a hostel failing it is a pretty bad look, as if the owners don't actually care to be hospitable.